Now, again, at the end of the movie, more saying, oh, Bush is the devil, Bush is Satan, and whatnot, war on terror is wrong, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm sitting in the theater with an open mind, I might add. And by the way, I better say this, I should have said this from the beginning. I saw Fahrenheit 9/11 with a more open mind than my fellow college classmates because, believe it or not, in 2004, I was undecided. No, really, I was. And so I sat there, and at the end of the film, I said to myself, okay, Moore, what are your solutions then? Okay, so if you don't want to do this, then how do you propose fighting Al-Qaeda? How do you propose protecting the country? How do you propose doing it? We'll get out of Iraq and Afghanistan. And then, just get out. And then, what are you going to do to prevent another attack? What are you going to do to investigate these groups? Now, I agree. War on terror. The word war on terror is stupid. You can't declare war on a thing, terrorism. But war with organized terrorism. It's organized terrorism like organized crime, like the mob, like the mafia. We're fighting the mafia of terrorism. Can we guarantee we will stop every terrorist attack from ever happening? No, you cannot guarantee that. No government official can guarantee that. And if they are, they're lying bastards. Well, they're lying bastards anyway. Nor can the government ever promise that they'll stop crime. The point is this. It's organized terrorism. Because it's organized, you can catch up to it easier. Again, he had no solutions. Now, I love this. It was basically a 2.5-hour bash of Bush, which is fine. It's what I expected. Now, later that year, there was a made-for-TV movie bashing John Kerry, and the Kerry campaign sued the TV network playing it, saying it violated the campaign finance reform laws. Now, wait a minute. A 2.5-hour movie bashing Bush is okay, but a 1-hour special bashing John Kerry was not okay. Somebody's not playing fair. Now, I'm not going to tell you how I vote, but I will say this. I was undecided in 2004, and at the last minute, I decided to go ahead and vote for John Kerry. Not because I thought Kerry was a better candidate. He was a lousy candidate. Oh, you should vote for me, because I was in Vietnam. And in Vietnam. Shut up about Vietnam! But I want to talk about Vietnam. I voted for Kerry because I knew Bush was going to have a lousy second term. And I was right. But I judged that based on this fact. Almost all presidents that have second terms, their second terms are usually worse than their first terms. Don't believe me? But Moore, just to be fair, he also misquoted Democrats. Like, remember the scene where he was talking about during the House, where they had to finalize and count those electoral college votes, and they needed a senator's approval. And by the way, Barbara Boxer herself came forward after Fahrenheit 9/11 came out, saying that Gore himself told Barbara not to help any congressman with a finalized vote, because what they needed was a vote to, continue on a debate on the election process and whatnot. And now Michael Moore, he misquoted Al Gore during that, because Moore kept showing clips of congressmen and whatnot making proposals on this and that, and Michael Moore said in the movie, and I quote, "But instead, Mr. Gore told those congressmen to sit down and shut up." Moore, we're watching this. Gore did not tell those congressmen to, quote, "sit down and shut up." Now you're misquoting Democrats. So, I mean, he went out of the way to bash things that had nothing to do with... Oh, and the 2000 election. Okay, let me tell you something. The 2000 election was the very first election I ever voted in. And I want you to know this. I have voted in every single solitary election since 2000. Hell, I've even showed up for elections most other people didn't even show up for. I'm not making this up. In 2003, I was one of 100 people who showed up for the Seward District Commissioner elections. That's right. In fact, I think I was the tie-breaking vote. I was vote 101. Yeah, the Seward District Commissioner election. You know, isn't plumbing important? I can only imagine the politics on that. Please vote for me. Has your toilet backed up in the past 4 years? Hey, don't vote for that guy, man. Your sinks will back up. Your dishwashers won't work. Oh, man, your plumbing will be all over the place. So, back to what I was saying. In 2000, I recorded election night that night. I was watching it as it happened, and I want you to know this. The media called the state of Florida a solid hour before voting was even done on the other 1/3 of the state. Let me tell you something. I've been to Florida once, and guess what? I already knew this before the 2000 election. Florida has 2 time zones. The Panhandle is in the Central Time Zone, which meant they had another hour of voting. But when the Atlantic and Eastern Time Zones ended, the media, in just a matter of minutes, declared the state of Florida for Gore. And I remember in 2000 sitting in the chair saying, wow, I said to myself, Gore must really be ahead in Florida for them to call it now. Because I said to myself, wait a minute, don't they have another hour of voting in the Panhandle? Because my dad's from Mississippi originally, and I know the Panhandle of Florida has the same time zone as Alabama and Mississippi, which is Central Time Zone. And I said to myself, wait a minute, people are still voting in the Panhandle. They can't call Florida already. And that was the medium's mistake. And then Gore said, well, then Fox News the next minute called it for Bush, and the rest of the media followed. More, that was 6 hours later. That was like at what, midnight or 1 a.m.? That was after the media, like CBS, ABC, etc., retracted calling Florida for Gore. They called it for Gore way too damn early, and they relied solely on the exit polls. What's an exit poll? That's when they talk about exiting the voting booth. They ask, well, who'd you vote for? Well, I voted for such and such. Who did you vote for? Oh, I voted for such and such. But it's not a scientific poll because they're not asking everybody who's coming out of there. So it's not that accurate, especially with how close the election was. In fact, let me tell you something. In my opinion, I think news outlets should get fined for that. Here's what, I'm sick of this. Janet Jackson shows her breasts at the Super Bowl, and this country goes nuts, and CBS gets hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines. But the news media calls states mere minutes after the polls close, or as the media did in 2000, they called the state of Florida an hour before voting was done in 1/3 of the state. And for the record, the Panhandle, because it's right next to Alabama and Mississippi, aka redneck country, it's a heavily Republican district area. The south part of Florida, heavily Democratic. So I can see how they screwed up. Well, the south part of Florida voted for Gore. Well, let's just call it for Gore then. Hey, stupid, the Panhandle, the redneck area, we're all... they're not done voting yet, and whether you like it or not, their votes count as well. Sorry. Now, look, I'm not saying the 2000 election was clean. And for the record, I was patient. It was the media that was being impatient every damn minute. Should the Supreme Court have made that decision? I was willing to wait. And the Supreme Court didn't, well, they officially declared Bush. No, the Supreme Court decision said you did 4 recounts. 4 recounts is enough already. Now, I was willing to wait for 5 or 6 recounts or whatever. I would have been fine with counting every single solitary friggin' ballot. And another thing they didn't tell you is Gore also blocked absentee ballots. And Bush also tried to block some ballots. So both sides were corrupt, for the record. I'm just letting you know. Was the 2000 election messed up? We all agree there were screw-ups, from the butterfly ballot to this, to that. But they've also done countless investigations, like the rumors, I think Moore mentioned this, but I know I heard rumors about this, like, ooh, well, they put roadblocks in African-American neighborhoods to prevent them from voting for Gore. The Congressional Black Caucus held an investigation in on that, and they found nothing. One more real quick thing, and I can't believe I forgot to say this while I was filming, but I also forgot to tell you that Michael Moore endorsed Ralph Nader in the 2000 election. Moore voted for Nader and took 2.5% away from Gore. So in many ways, it's Michael Moore's fault Bush became president. Moore wasn't even supporting Gore, and he did not mention that in his movie Fahrenheit 9/11. Sorry, I tried not to get political about this, and now again, alright, there's 3 things about Fahrenheit 11 I completely agree with. A, Bush took way too many damn vacations. I wanted to scream every time Bush took a friggin' vacation. I remember in August of 2005, Bush took another month-long vacation, right after he just won re-election. I was like, do you not like your job? Why do you keep taking vacations all the time? Now, for the record, now Obama's doing it, and now the Republicans are bitching about it. Well, gee, Republicans, well, you didn't bitch when Bush took all those vacations, and now you're bitching when Obama takes vacations. You know what I think? You're the friggin' president of the United States! You get a weekend! That's it! Well, no, being president's a really hard job. The president deserves time off, and yeah, time off's fine, but not a month! Not a month! Are you nuts? I don't get month-long vacations. You don't get month-long vacations. They get month-long vacations. Does this make any sense to you? I don't like either party doing it. You're there in office for 4 years, 8 years max. Make the most of it. Okay, I can understand you taking a month-long vacation if everything was fine, if there wasn't 2 wars going on, if there wasn't recession going on, if there wasn't high unemployment going on, then fine, take a month off. Hell, take 2 months off. Hell, I believe there was a president, I'm sure I'll subtitle this right here, there was a president who I recall took 8 or 9 months off, but that was in the 1800s when we didn't have so much for the government to worry about and so on. Now, I know what you're all thinking. You just don't like Fahrenheit 9/11 because you disagree with the movie a lot. Hey, there's another movie that came out exactly the same time as Fahrenheit 9/11, and that was Morgan Spurlock's movie, Super Size Me. And in my opinion, Morgan Spurlock's the new Michael Moore, because Morgan Spurlock makes documentaries the way Michael Moore used to make them. Now, I disagreed with what Morgan Spurlock's message was. Let's sue McDonald's. Are you fat? Let's sue McDonald's. That's retarded. If you're fat, it's your own damn fault. I used to weigh 300 pounds. Guess whose fault that was? And guess who's lost weight? Slowly, but surely. But if you do it slowly, you keep it off. And I didn't have to go vegan to do it. Now, I saw Morgan Spurlock supersize me for one reason and one reason only. I wanted it to scare me into losing weight. It worked. Over the course of 5 years. But like I said, do it slowly, that way you keep it off. And I'm not saying I disagreed with everything in Super Size Me. He made a lot of good points in that movie. I totally disagreed with suing McDonald's as the solution. Again, that's beyond ridiculous to me. However, I actually saw something he could have sued McDonald's over, and that was zoning laws, because he mentioned there was 88 McDonald's within Manhattan Island. 88 McDonald's on an island? In Manhattan? Okay, what about zoning issues? Something else Morgan Spurlock completely did not talk about in Super Size Me that I felt he really missed an opportunity. Why didn't he talk about the fact that those employees who work for McDonald's are grossly underpaid? It is a multi-billion-dollar company. They can't shell out a few more bucks for their employees' hourly wage. Dude, in college I had to watch every kind of documentary you could think of, and you know, I'd probably disagree with half of them, but I still saw great qualities and how great they were made. And like I said, Fahrenheit 9/11, Moore made it so rushed. I said to myself, how long did it take him to edit this? Like one night? And another thing, if this movie was so effective, then how come Bush won re-election?